First contact with fangs. The Galactic survey vessel Magellan hung in high orbit above PRX 2247, its sensors painting the jungle world in waves of data. Dr. James Rodriguez stood at the observation deck, watching the swirling emerald clouds below. After 15 years of cataloging exotic species across the frontier, he thought he'd seen everything. He was wrong. Another anomaly in Sector 7, Lieutenant Sarah Wong called out from her station. That's the third energy signature that doesn't match known biological patterns. Rodriguez rubbed his chin, studying the holographic display. The readings were unlike anything in their database, far too complex for non-sapient life, yet distinctly different from any known civilization's technology. The Council's going to love this, he muttered. Prep the drop ship. I want boots on the ground before sunset. The Council had sent them to PRX 2247 following reports of missing colonist survey teams. 3 expeditions had gone dark in the past standard year. The official theory was equipment failure due to the planet's unusual magnetic field. Rodriguez had never bought that explanation. 6 hours later, their drop ship touched down in a small clearing. The jungle canopy towered hundreds of meters overhead, ancient trees with trunks wider than Earth redwoods. The air was thick with bioluminescent spores that drifted like lazy fireflies. Motion sensors are going crazy, technical specialist Chen reported, frowning at his handheld scanner. Multiple signatures, moving in patterns I've never seen before. Whatever they are, they're coordinating. Rodriguez felt the hair on the back of his neck rise. 20 years of xenobiology experience had taught him to trust his instincts. Something was watching them. The first attack came at dusk. They heard nothing, no rustle of leaves, no snap of branches. Just sudden silence as the jungle's ambient noise ceased. Then shadows moved against shadows. The creature that emerged was beautiful in the way that all apex predators are beautiful, a perfect fusion of form and lethal function. 3 meters of iridescent scales and coiled muscle, 6-limbed with retractable claws that gleamed like polished obsidian. Its head bore a crown of sensory tendrils that shifted like living fiber optics, and its eyes held intelligence. Rodriguez barely had time to raise his non-lethal stunner before more shapes detached from the darkness. They moved with impossible grace, each step precisely placed, every motion perfectly coordinated with their packmates. The team's defensive perimeter meant nothing to them. Hold your fire. Rodriguez shouted as he saw fingers tightening on triggers. Look at their movements, this isn't mindless aggression. The creatures had them surrounded, but they weren't attacking. They were testing, probing, studying. Rodriguez recognized the behavior from old Earth videos of wolf packs assessing new threats. These weren't just animals, they were tactical thinkers. That's when he made the connection. The missing survey teams, the unusual energy signatures, the coordinated hunting patterns. They weren't dealing with simple predators. They were dealing with an entirely new category of intelligent life. The leader, Rodriguez instantly thought of it as the Alpha, stepped forward. Its sensory tendrils pulsed with complex patterns of light. Not random bioluminescence, but language. The creature was trying to communicate. Rodriguez did something that would later be called either the bravest or most foolish action in xenobiological history. He lowered his weapon, stepped forward, and knelt. Not in submission, but in greeting, the way a human might approach a wary but curious dog. The Alpha's tendrils flickered with new patterns. It cocked its head in an eerily familiar gesture of consideration. Then, to the astonishment of the entire team, it mirrored Rodriguez's posture. My God, Chen whispered. They're not just intelligent. They're social learners. That moment changed everything. The creatures, soon to be known as the Savora, weren't the mindless killers that most galactic species assumed all apex predators must be. They were sophisticated pack hunters with complex social structures, advanced communication, and most importantly, the ability to recognize and respond to non-threatening gestures from other species. Over the next few weeks, Rodriguez's team made breakthrough after breakthrough. The Sevora weren't responsible for the missing survey teams, they had actually tried to protect them from the planet's real dangers. The energy signatures they detected were the result of the Sevora's remarkable biological ability to share information through bioluminescent networks, a kind of living quantum entanglement that allowed packs to coordinate over vast distances. But the most revolutionary discovery was how quickly the Sevora adapted to human presence. Unlike other species that had encountered these magnificent predators and immediately tried to eliminate them, humanity's more cautious, observational approach yielded unexpected results. The Sevora began to show curiosity about their human visitors. They started mimicking human gestures, testing boundaries not through aggression but through careful observation. Rodriguez documented everything, knowing that his findings would shake the galactic community's fundamental assumptions about predator species. But as he watched a young Sevora carefully copying his hand movements, trying to understand how humans communicated, he realized they'd stumbled onto something far more significant than just a new species. They'd found kindred spirits. Just as humanity's ancestors had once formed alliances with wolves that would reshape both species, they now had the chance to forge a similar bond among the stars. The implications were staggering. As the sun set on their first month of study, Rodriguez sent his initial report to the council. It was 3 words long: they can learn. The response was immediate and predictable. Shut down the project. Quarantine the planet. Classify everything. But Rodriguez knew it was too late for that. The Sevora had already begun to change in response to human contact, and humans were changing in response to them. The galaxy's most feared predators had met the galaxy's most adaptable species. And neither would ever be the same. The Empathy Experiment. Dr. Sarah Chen stood before the Galactic Science Council's emergency session, her holographic presentation showing footage of Sevora pack behaviors. The chambers were packed with representatives from across known space, most of them radiating various species-specific signs of anxiety. Distinguished colleagues, she began, we've been approaching the Sevora question backwards. Our fear has blinded us to an unprecedented opportunity. The massive screen behind her showed a Sevora pack working together to solve one of her team's intelligence tests, a complex puzzle box containing food rewards. The creatures weren't using brute force. They were communicating, planning, adapting. For 50,000 years, your civilizations have treated apex predators as problems to be eliminated. Humanity took a different path. We saw potential allies. A Mazarine representative's color spots flashed angry red. You're talking about the galaxy's most dangerous species like their pets. No, Chen corrected, activating the next sequence. I'm talking about them like they're people. Different from us, yes. Predators, absolutely. But people nonetheless. The new footage showed her research team's breakthrough moment. A young Sevora, barely adolescent, attempting to warn them about an approaching storm using a crude combination of gestures it had learned from humans and its own bioluminescent signals. They don't just hunt. They protect. They don't just kill. They nurture. Most importantly, they can learn new behaviors and teach them to others. Just like us. The chamber erupted in overlapping arguments. Chen waited them out. She'd expected this reaction. After all, she'd had a similar one when Rodriguez first shared his crazy theory about Sevora intelligence. Dr. Chen, the archival mind of the collective spoke, its crystalline form refracting light in patterns of doubt, your own data shows their hunting efficiency exceeds any known species. Their problem-solving abilities rival our best AI. Their pack coordination borders on hive mind capability. How can you suggest safely integrating such creatures into galactic society? Chen smiled. This was the opening she'd been waiting for. By understanding what makes them choose not to hunt something. She activated her final piece of footage. It showed her team's base camp during a massive predator attack. Not by Sevora, but by the native apex species they'd been protecting other researchers from, massive serpentine creatures that hunted in swarms. The Sevora pack that had been under observation didn't flee. They didn't hide. They fought alongside the humans, protecting them. Not because they had to, but because they chose to. The Sevora aren't just intelligent. They're capable of forming social bonds beyond their own species. They can recognize and return loyalty. They can learn and adapt their instincts. In short, they can be befriended. This is madness, the Mazarine representative sputtered. You'll get everyone killed. Actually, Chen countered, bringing up comparative statistics, in the 6 months since we began the integration program, attacks on frontier settlements have dropped by 70%. Turns out, having Sevora allies is better protection than any defense system we could build. She advanced to her final slide. But there's something even more remarkable. They're teaching us too. Their pack coordination techniques have already revolutionized our small unit tactics. Their hunting strategies are helping us rethink space combat doctrine. Their bioluminescent communication is opening up new possibilities in quantum networking. And what happens, the archival mind asked quietly, when they decide they don't need us anymore? Chen's expression softened. That's what none of you understand yet. We're not domesticating them like animals. We're forming alliances with them like equals. The same way humanity's ancestors did with wolves, leading to dogs, not through domination, but through mutual benefit and respect. She showed one final piece of footage. A human child who'd wandered too far from a frontier settlement, lost in a dangerous jungle. The Sevora pack found her first. But instead of hunting, they surrounded her protectively, used their bioluminescence to signal her location, and stayed with her until rescue arrived. They're adapting to us as much as we're adapting to them. This isn't just about humans taming predators. It's about two intelligent species recognizing something in each other, the capacity for trust, for cooperation, for growth. The chamber had fallen silent. Chen could see the impact her words were having, even on the most skeptical observers. She delivered her closing argument. Humanity's greatest strength isn't our technology or our intelligence. It's our ability to turn potential enemies into allies. We did it with wolves on Earth, creating partnerships that changed both species forever. Now we have the chance to do it again, on a galactic scale. She gestured to the final image, a Sevora and a human working together to track dangerous creatures, moving in perfect coordination. The question isn't whether we should try to control them. The question is, what could we accomplish together as allies? The council chambers erupted in discussion. Chen knew she'd shifted the conversation, but the real work was just beginning. As she packed up her presentation materials, her comm unit chimed with an urgent message from the research base. The Sevora had made another breakthrough. They weren't just learning human behaviors anymore. They were teaching their own hunting techniques to human rangers. The integration was becoming a two-way exchange. Chen smiled. The galaxy wasn't ready for what was coming. But then again, the galaxy hadn't been ready for humans either. Sometimes the best partnerships were the ones nobody saw coming. She already had her next presentation titled, The Pack Bond Protocol, a new model for interspecies relations. The galaxy was about to learn what humanity had known for millennia: sometimes the most dangerous thing can become your most loyal friend. You just have to be brave enough to offer trust first. The Alpha Protocol. Commander Maya Patel stood at the edge of Training Ground Zero, watching history unfold. Below her, 20 human rangers moved through combat drills alongside their Sevora partners. The sight still took her breath away, humanity's deadliest ancient predator and the galaxy's most feared hunters, moving as one. 6 months ago, they would have called this a suicide mission, her XO, Lieutenant Drake, remarked. Now look at them. The training ground erupted in controlled chaos as holographic targets appeared. Humans and Sevora responded instantly, but not as separate units. They moved in perfect synchronization, each compensating for the other's weaknesses. Where human reflexes fell short, Sevora speed filled the gap. Where Sevora instincts might have led to overkill, human judgment held them in check. Pull up the latest neural sync data, Patel ordered, her augmented reality display filling with streams of information. The numbers were extraordinary. Human and Sevora brainwave patterns were beginning to mirror each other during joint operations, creating something the scientists were calling pack resonance. The Council's Oversight Committee arrives tomorrow, Drake reminded her. They're still not convinced this isn't going to blow up in our faces. Patel smiled grimly. Then we'll just have to show them what humanity does best, turning the impossible into the inevitable. The Alpha Protocol, as it had come to be known, was the culmination of everything humanity had learned about working with predator species. It wasn't about dominance or control. It was about understanding, respect, and mutual growth. New scenario, Patel called out. The training ground shifted, recreating the environment of a hostile alien world. Search and rescue operation. Civilian transport down in hostile territory. The human Sevora teams split into hunting pairs, the formation they'd found worked best. Each human ranger carried minimal equipment, relying instead on their partner's natural abilities. The Sevora, in turn, had learned to moderate their hunting instincts, understanding that not every mission required lethal force. Contact, a ranger called out. The holographic enemies were based on actual threats they'd encountered, everything from hostile alien species to rogue combat drones. A normal human squad would have been overwhelmed. A pure Sevora pack might have survived but caused unacceptable collateral damage. Together, they were something else entirely. The Sevora moved like liquid shadow, their bioluminescent signals coordinating complex tactical maneuvers. The humans responded instantly to these signals, a language they'd learned through months of intense training. Where the Sevora provided raw power and speed, the humans added strategy and restraint. They're not just cooperating, Drake observed. They're innovating. Look at that formation, that's not in any tactical manual. He was right. The human Sevora teams had begun developing their own combat doctrine, combining the best of both species' natural abilities. The Sevora's pack hunting instincts merged with human strategic thinking to create something entirely new. Incoming priority alert, the base AI announced. Unidentified vessels approaching the training facility. Non-standard configurations. No response to hailing signals. Patel's blood ran cold. This wasn't part of the exercise. All units, this is command. We have a real-world situation developing. Unknown hostile forces incoming. This is not a drill. The response was immediate. Training ground holograms vanished as real defensive systems came online. Human and Sevora teams seamlessly transitioned from practice to combat readiness. Multiple breach attempts detected, the AI reported. They're trying to override our security protocols. Pirates, Drake growled. They must have heard about the program. Probably thinking they can grab themselves some trained Sevora. Patel's lips curved in a predatory smile that would have looked at home on a Sevora. Then they're about to learn why that's a very bad idea. The first explosions rocked the facility's outer defenses. Under normal circumstances, this would be when the automated security systems took over, when human personnel fell back to hardened positions and waited for reinforcements. These were not normal circumstances. All teams, Patel broadcast, execute Protocol Omega. Show them what true pack hunters can do. What followed would become legendary in military circles across the galaxy. The pirates, expecting to find trained animals they could capture and reprogram, instead faced something unprecedented, human and Sevora partners fighting as one, each making the other stronger. The Sevora's natural hunting abilities, combined with human tactical analysis and technology, turned the entire facility into a killing ground. But not a single pirate died. They were disabled, captured, contained, proof that the most dangerous predators in known space had learned the human art of measured response. 3 hours later, as Council security forces arrived to collect the prisoners, Patel filed her report. The incident would become the centerpiece of her presentation to the Oversight Committee. "Still think this project is too dangerous?" she asked Drake, watching the cleanup crews at work. "Oh, it's definitely dangerous," he replied. "But that's not the point, is it? The galaxy was afraid we were creating weapons. Instead, we created partners." Patel nodded, watching a Sevora gently helping its human partner treat a minor wound. The Predator's lethal claws, capable of tearing through battleship-grade armor, now moved with surgeon-like precision. "That's what they never understood about humans," she said. "We don't just tame dangerous things. We learn from them. And they learn from us." The next day, when the Council committee arrived, they found more than just training logs and combat data. They found proof that humanity's greatest gift, the ability to form bonds with predator species, might be exactly what the galaxy needed. The Alpha Protocol wasn't just changing the Sevora. It was changing humanity too. And together, they were about to change the galaxy. Trust falls among the stars. The distress call came at 3 o'clock ship time. Captain Elena Santos jerked awake in her quarters aboard the UES Horizon as the emergency klaxons wailed. "Captain to the bridge," the ship's AI announced. "Priority 1 alert from the Centauri Deep Space Research Station." Santos was moving before the announcement finished, her Sevora partner Xeth already at her side. The massive predator's bioluminescent tendrils pulsed with concern. They'd learned to read each other's stress responses months ago. The bridge was organized chaos when they arrived. Holographic displays showed the research station, a massive structure hanging in deep space, now partially obscured by what looked like a cosmic dust storm. "Report," Santos barked, settling into her command chair. Xeth took up his position beside her, sensory tendrils scanning the data feeds with inhuman speed. "The station hit something in deep space," her XO explained. "Some kind of quantum anomaly. Their containment systems are failing. If they go critical." He didn't need to finish the sentence. Everyone knew what a quantum core breach could do to this sector of space. "How many on board?" 3,000 researchers and support staff. "Standard evacuation protocols aren't working, the anomalies interfering with their shuttle systems." Santos felt Xeth tense beside her. The Sevora had already spotted what the human crew was missing. His tendrils flashed a complex pattern that the bridge crew had learned meant urgent danger. "He's right," Santos announced. "Look at the energy patterns. That's not a natural phenomenon. Someone weaponized that quantum anomaly." The bridge fell silent. Weaponized quantum anomalies were supposed to be theoretical. If someone had actually developed them. Multiple ships detected, Tactical reported. They were hiding in the anomaly's wake. "Configuration matches Drachnid raiders." Santos cursed. The Drachnids were supposed to be contained in their own sector. If they'd developed this technology, the entire galaxy was at risk. "They're using the station as bait," she realized. "Waiting for rescue ships to arrive so they can trap them in the anomaly too." Xeth's tendrils pulsed with hunting patterns. The Sevora understood ambush tactics better than any species in known space. But they also understood how to counter them. "You have an idea, partner?" Santos asked. Xeth's response was immediate, a complex series of light patterns that the bridge crew's neural interfaces translated into tactical data. Santos grinned. "That's either brilliant or insane. Probably both. All hands, prepare for emergency maneuver pattern Sigma 7. Sevora teams to your stations." The Horizon had been the first ship in the fleet modified for joint human-Sevora operations. Where other captains saw the Predators as dangerous allies to be controlled, Santos had embraced true partnership. Every critical system had both human and Sevora operators, combining human analytical thinking with Sevora instinct and speed. "They'll expect us to approach from the station's shadow," Santos explained as her crew prepared. "So we're going to do something very human instead, we're going to run straight into their trap and turn it against them." Xeth's tendrils pulsed with approval. The Sevora appreciated bold hunting strategies. Engineering, divert all power to the quantum shields. Navigation, plot a course directly through the heart of that anomaly. Sevora teams, prepare for zero-G combat operations. Her crew looked at her like she'd lost her mind. Only Xeth seemed completely calm. "The Drachnids think they've created the perfect trap," Santos continued. "But they've forgotten something crucial about humanity. We don't just survive dangerous situations, we learn to thrive in them. And now we have partners who feel the same way." The plan was audacious. While the Horizon charged straight through the anomaly, appearing to fall into the trap, Sevora teams would spacewalk through the quantum disturbance, something only their enhanced biology could survive. They would board the Drachnid ships directly, using their natural hunting abilities in the environment where the raiders felt safest. Meanwhile, the human crew would do what they did best: improvise, adapt, and turn an enemy's strength into a weakness. "All hands, brace for quantum transition," Santos ordered. "Remember your training. Trust your partners. Show them what happens when humanity's determination meets Sevora hunting prowess." The next 20 minutes would be talked about in fleet academies for generations. The Horizon's charge looked like suicide to the Drachnid raiders, until they realized their prey had become the hunter. Sevora teams, moving through space with terrible grace, breached the Drachnid ships before they could react. The raiders had expected to face human soldiers in heavy armor. Instead, they faced the galaxy's apex predators in their element, working in perfect coordination with human tactical teams. The Horizon itself, guided by the combined intuition of human and Sevora navigators, did something the raiders thought impossible: it surfed the quantum anomaly's wake, using the very weapon meant to destroy them as a propulsion system. "Status report," Santos called out as the last Drachnid ship surrendered. "Station secure. Research staff evacuating safely. Quantum anomaly contained. 3 Drachnid capital ships captured, 2 others disabled. No casualties on our side." Xeth's tendrils pulsed with satisfaction. The hunt had been good. "Send word to command," Santos ordered. "Tell them." She paused, looking at her Sevora partner. "Tell them this is what happens when the galaxy's most adaptable species partners with its most effective hunters. We don't just survive threats, we turn them into opportunities." As rescue ships arrived to secure the scene, Santos received a priority message from Fleet Command. The Drachnid raid had been a blessing in disguise. Now no one could deny the value of the Human-Sevora Partnership Program. "Ready to file our report?" she asked Xeth. The Sevora's tendrils pulsed with amusement. They both knew this was just the beginning. The galaxy was about to learn that when humans and Sevora worked together, the impossible became merely interesting. Legacy of the Pack. 10 years after the first Human-Sevora partnership, the Galactic Assembly gathered for a historic session. The massive chamber, designed to accommodate representatives from every known spacefaring species, had been modified to include special sections for the Sevora delegates, the first predator species ever to be granted full membership status. Admiral James Rodriguez, now significantly grayer than when he'd first encountered the Sevora, stood at the podium. Beside him, his longtime partner Nova's tendrils glowed with gentle patterns that the entire assembly could now understand thanks to the widespread adoption of Sevora-inspired communication protocols. "Distinguished delegates," Rodriguez began, "a decade ago, we stood at a crossroads. We could either continue treating apex predators as threats to be eliminated, or we could try something unprecedented, treating them as potential allies." Holoprojectors activated, showing scenes from across the galaxy. Human Sevora teams conducting search and rescue operations in environments too hostile for either species alone. Joint research projects combining Sevora sensory capabilities with human scientific methodology. Cultural exchange programs that had transformed both societies. The results speak for themselves, Rodriguez continued. Piracy in frontier sectors down 80%. First contact success rates improved by 60%. Scientific breakthroughs in everything from quantum communications to xenobiology. But the numbers don't tell the whole story. He gestured to the chamber's upper galleries, where human and Sevora children sat together in a specially designated education section. The sight would have been unthinkable just a few years ago, the galaxy's most feared predators watching over human young as protectively as their own. We didn't just gain allies. We gained family. The Sevora taught us to be better hunters, yes, but more importantly, they taught us to be better protectors. In return, we showed them that strength doesn't always mean dominance, that cooperation can be more powerful than competition. Nova's tendrils pulsed with agreement, adding their own commentary that the Assembly's translators rendered in multiple languages. Humans showed us that the greatest hunt is not for prey, but for understanding. The chamber murmured with appreciation. Sevora metaphors had become popular in galactic diplomatic circles, their unique blend of predator pragmatism and surprising wisdom changing how species communicated with each other. But perhaps the most significant change, Rodriguez continued, has been in how we view ourselves. Humanity had always seen our ability to bond with predator species as a quirk of our evolution. The Sevora helped us understand it was actually our greatest gift to the galaxy. He activated the final holographic display, showing the newly established Interspecies Ranger Academy. Human and Sevora instructors worked together, teaching young members of both species the art of partnership. But they weren't alone. Other predator species, previously considered too dangerous for civilization, were being gradually integrated using the protocols developed through the Human Sevora program. We're not just changing how we interact with one species, Rodriguez explained. We're changing how the galaxy thinks about predator species entirely. The Sevora were just the beginning. Nova stepped forward, their massive form moving with fluid grace that no longer inspired fear in the assembly. Their tendrils pulsed with complex patterns that needed no translation. We were called monsters. Humans called us family. We were feared as destroyers. Humans showed us how to protect. We thought we were the galaxy's greatest hunters. Humans taught us that the greatest strength is in hunting together. Rodriguez smiled at his partner's words. The galaxy feared that letting humans work with apex predators would lead to an unstoppable military force. Instead, it led to something far more powerful, a new way of building trust between species that once would have only seen each other as threats. He gestured to the new galactic map, where dozens of points of light indicated successful human Sevora operations. Every one of these lights represents a place where traditional diplomacy failed, where force would have only led to more violence. Instead, we sent in human Sevora teams. Not to fight, but to understand. Not to conquer, but to connect. The Assembly's mood had shifted from diplomatic formality to genuine appreciation. Even species that had initially opposed the program couldn't deny its success. As we vote today on expanding the Interspecies Partnership Initiative, Rodriguez concluded, remember this, 10 years ago, the galaxy's most dangerous predators and its most adaptable species chose trust over fear. Everything that's happened since, every life saved, every conflict prevented, every breakthrough achieved, stems from that choice. Nova's final statement resonated through the chamber. Humans taught us that being apex predators meant we had a responsibility to protect, not just to hunt. We taught humans that their greatest strength wasn't in taming dangerous things, but in seeing the potential for good in them. The vote that followed was unanimous. The human Sevora model would become the template for integrating other predator species into galactic society. It wasn't just about domestication or control, it was about finding the balance between natural instincts and higher purpose. As Rodriguez and Nova left the chamber, they passed a group of young human and Sevora cadets watching the proceedings. The future of their partnership, right there in front of them. Ready for the next hunt? Nova asked in their unique way. Rodriguez laughed. Always, old friend. Always. The galaxy was changing, one partnership at a time. And somewhere out there, another species that everyone else feared was waiting to learn what humanity had known all along. Sometimes the most dangerous thing in your world can become your most trusted ally. You just have to be brave enough to offer trust first.